Yo, what's up everyone? We've got another image sent in, so I'll be putting, as always, all her details down in the description. So if you like her content, like her work, like her photos, go down there and give her a follow. So if we come down and look at her feed, you can see there's a lot of vibrance. There's a real bright feeling to the image, so there's no shadows. The shadows are being almost all taken out, and there's a real crispness and a bit of a pop to the image, and I think the clarity is doing a lot of that as well. So if we come down, look at a few more photos, we are going to be working with this one right here, trying to recreate the edit the best we can. So check out her links in the description, guys. Go give her a follow and let's get into it. Okay, so we obviously need to brighten it a little. Drop the contrast a tad. I'm going to be doing S-curves, so we'll add in the contrast with those. So we want to get this nice, bright, vibrant look. So you definitely want to bring up the shadows. We're going to bring them up all the way. And then quite a bit of whites to really get the pop to the image, because the whites are the brightest bits. You want them quite bright to give that pop. And then we're going to really bring down the highlights, and that's going to give back a lot of that detail. And this is quite a common way to get that real bright, vibrant look. Really bring up the shadows, bring up the whites a little, and drop the highlights. I see this really often in people's edits. And then you want to keep the blacks kind of dark, because you need a bit of contrast. If you've got the shadows and the blacks up, it just looks too flat. So keeping the blacks down a bit. And moving on to clarity, we want a really crisp looking image. Clarity also gives a nice pop to the image, so let's bring that up a lot. And then let's bring up the dehaze. As you can see what that's doing, just bring it up a little, gets rid of that foggy haze look. About there. So now I'll just go into the curves, and it's going to be just a really simple S curve in the red, green and blue channels, and then a fade with this one here. Okay, so that's the curves done. If we just turn them on and off there, you can see that just gives a real richness and contrast to the image. So simple S curve to the red, green and blue channels. Nothing too crazy there, just simple S curves, and then just a fade in this curve here in the blacks, so those blacks don't get too harsh. We just lift them up a bit, lift up the shadows a bit, and get that softness to the image and the contrast, but you still get the nice punch you get, making the colors pop with the red, green and blue channels as well. So that's all we've done for that. And then if we just come down, I'm going to do some work with the calibrations here, and just before I do that, I'm going to take down the saturation of a lot of these colors. I'll just come back up and boost the saturation and vibrance up here. So we want a very vibrant look. So that's going to boost more the mid-tones sort of bit more. Get a bit more of a pop by boosting the vibrance. And I'll come back down. So this is what we've got so far with the calibration. Moving them to more of an orange. All those tones. Green to the shadows, and then so just give it the slightest teal and orange, really bring out those teal and oranges, even though there's not heaps in this image. Just move it a bit more that way, and the saturation of those can come up. So it's very hard to explain why I've moved these, because I have gone through this edit and this is the finished settings, but really you'll be bouncing back and forth from calibrations, back up to HSL, back into curves sometimes, but this is just the finished product, so it's kind of hard to see the actual progression throughout the edit and why you would make some changes. But that's what we've got so far. That on and off gives a pop. The colors really brings out those oranges and reds there. And if we just maybe do some split toning, let's put some blue in the highlights. I'm going to come in with filters for the sky, so I'm not too worried about that at the moment. But so since I know I'm going to do that, I'm just looking at like the colors here on the table or the pillows there or her dress. But we'll probably brush on her, so I'm not too worried about that either. And the shadows, so we want lots of warmth. So especially if you look into the darker areas, the shadows, you can see there's a lot of warmth. We want the image to be a lot warmer. And that looks a lot better. And then you just put the blues in the highlights, and that balances out the warmth you put in the shadows. So you just, yeah, we want this image to look warm and bright. And moving on, let's work with some HSL to fine tune everything. So our dress at the moment looks a little red. We want it to be a bit more orange. So let's shift this across in this direction, but then oranges will also affect that, so you've got to play around and figure out what the balance is between, because they will slightly be different, but they do kind of affect the same areas, so it can be tricky. The yellows, okay, there's not many yellows in this one, but we will really warm them up. You have to look at the tiniest of things, so I can see the yellow move. The yellow is at the top of the drink. There's a little bit of color there being affected, and I can see that just by that little bit there, I can tell it has been moved towards more of an orange. Greens, so no greens in this one, but we know it would be warmed up for this style. And then not too much to the blues. We want to keep a nice teal to them, so a little towards the teal for these ones. For the aquas, the blues can go a little that way. Purples, not many, but we'll move it there. just see a little bit of a change. Not sure if you guys can see the tiny amount of change that I can see. Shift the magenta a touch. Saturation, we need a bit more. Red, a little less. Blues can come down, aquas can come down, a bit too much in this image. Let's see, these purples can come right down. Magentas. Okay. Right, so it might look like we need more saturation, but the luminance is going to affect that as well. So we've got the image looking nice and bright, but we want rich colors. And a good way to do that is to deepen them. They look a bit richer when they're deepened. So let's drop the reds. Do that to the oranges as well. And I'm not worried about the sky at the moment. At the moment, I'm going to come in with a filter for them later. Yellow's very little amount in this one. Just drop all these as well. I'll actually brighten the purples. You can see what it's doing to the seat there. That's You can see how it doesn't quite look the same if the purples are down, or even in the middle. Slide them right up. And I quite often see this as well on edits like this, to slide up the luminance of the purples and magentas and really bring down their saturation. Okay, so coming down, sharpening. I don't think we need too much sharpening at all, but we'll up the masking. So what masking does is it just sharpens the edges that you like. So if you hold Option, slide this bar, it tells you exactly the lines it is sharpening, and that's helpful because we don't always want to sharpen everything. Might want to just sharpen the large lines and keep the smaller details nice and soft so it doesn't look too digital, and just sharpen the thicker edges. And we'll go with a touch of noise reduction. It can make you lose a little bit of sharpness, but it can also make the image look a little creamier, which can look good sometimes. So let's try to bring out the sky and add some warmth to it. So what I'll do is come up here to filters, and I've already placed two filters, so one coming in from this direction and one coming in from the other direction, pretty much affecting the whole sky. I'll get this one affecting the whole sky, and what I want to do is do things like clarity maybe, or dehaze, just to bring them out a little bit. And then we want lots of color in there. You can see how much orange there is right on the horizon there, so I think that's how we get that. So saturation at 0, and then when we bring it up, maybe some sharpness. You can see the edges of all these balloons, and they've actually made the clouds quite sharp back there. or that could be as well from the clarity, so the clarity really brings them out as well. I'm going to bring it up a lot. And then I'm going to grab the other filter, and for this one we can see we've got way more warmth out here. We've sort of got the colors right over on this side, but on this side we've got too much blue. So I'm going to really bring up the warmth, and that sort of brings in those purple tones as well. Touch of saturation, looks pretty good. Okay, so now I think our whole image is looking pretty good, and I just actually did I enable? We'll enable profile corrections, and that will just straighten any distortion and slightly brighten some vignetting in the image, because you can see it's a bit dark there, and over there it's not that dark. So same with all of the corners. So we'll do that, and that also helps give this kind of style. You don't want vignetting on a bright, vibrant sort of look. So we'll hit that, and what we'll try to do now is bring out our subject. So we go to brushes. If I hit show selected area, you can see we've already done a brush over the entire subject, and we want to bring out the subject. So we want to do things like bring up exposure, maybe some highlights just to give a bit of a glow, whites for that pop to our subject, maybe some dehaze, sort of gives a soft contrast. I think contrast can look a little harsh, and I think if you do it with the dehaze, it can look a little softer. Sort of leaves the bright parts alone, sort of. And then let's add sharpness to our subject as well. Okay, and then we just want a separate one for her hair. As you can see, that's gone very bright, much brighter than everything else. So select that, and I will up the exposure. Maybe add some warmth. And then pretty much the same, just want to bring it out a bit more, but then you just got to be careful you keep the contrast, otherwise the image will look unnatural. Might even just take out some saturation, looking a little too orange. I think take away a bit of that and it looks a little more blonde. And yeah, that looks pretty good, guys. Pretty similar there, and I'm happy with that. So if you guys really want to help out this channel, and do me a big favor, comment people who you want me to reach out to on Instagram, ask them to send in a photo, and then do a tutorial on them. Because if you comment people without large followings but still have great images, they'll send in a photo, and yeah, I can do a tutorial for you guys. So it really helps me if you comment them down below, and then I'll go through all of them, and that really helps me. So if you're really liking these tutorials, you guys check out the presets. You guys really like them. The feedback's been awesome. Some of you struggle with the curves, not sure what to do with the curves. Plenty of awesome curves in there, and I might do a video explaining curves soon. And yeah, if you guys are into video editing, check the description. I'm currently selling LUTs and flat footage, high quality flat footage that you can practice editing with, which I think is really helpful for people. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.